My daughter screamed at me, "You're not welcome in their lives. Forget your grandchildren." I didn't argue. I just smiled and turned away. Months later, she came crying at my door, begging for help, because without me, her children wouldn't survive. Before I tell you what happened, subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments where you are watching from. My name is Margaret Dawson. I am 68 years old, a widow, and a retired nurse. I spent most of my life working long hours in hospitals, caring for others, and raising my only daughter, Emily. After my husband Henry passed away, Emily was all I had. She grew into a strong woman, determined to build her own life. Emily married and had 2 beautiful children, Lucas and Lily. They became the light of my world. I looked after them whenever I could, helping with homework, cooking meals, and reading bedtime stories. They filled my quiet house with laughter again after Henry was gone. But over time, Emily began to push me away. She wanted to prove she could raise her children on her own, without anyone's help. She grew proud, and sometimes even resentful when I stepped in. Still, I thought we would always find a way back to each other. I was wrong. One day, our relationship cracked open in the most painful way, and I was left standing outside her door, holding back tears, wondering how a daughter could treat her mother like that. It started as a small disagreement, the kind every family has. Emily had called me one afternoon, frustrated about her long work hours and the endless chores waiting for her at home. I offered, as I always did, to pick up Lucas and Lily from school and keep them for the evening so she could rest. I thought I was helping, the way mothers do, but Emily's tone sharpened instantly. "Mom, I don't need you to raise my kids. I can handle it. Stop interfering." Her words stung, but I stayed calm. "Emily, I'm not interfering. I just want to help. The children enjoy being with me. It gives you time to breathe." She sighed heavily. "That's the problem. They run to you for everything. They should come to me. You're making them dependent on you." For a moment, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had spent years loving those children, giving them the stability she sometimes couldn't provide because of her work. They weren't dependent. They were simply loved. But before I could answer, she exploded. "Enough! You're not welcome in their lives anymore. Forget your grandchildren." Her voice was loud, shaking the walls of her living room. Lucas and Lily were sitting on the couch, their small faces frozen in fear. Lily's lip trembled as tears welled in her eyes. Lucas reached for my hand, whispering, "Grandma, don't go." I wanted to gather them in my arms and protect them from the storm, but Emily yanked them back. "No, they're mine, not yours. You had your chance at being a mother. Now let me be one without you." Interfering. The silence that followed was heavier than the shouting. My heart cracked as I looked at my daughter, a woman I had raised, now standing before me with fire in her eyes and bitterness in her words. I wanted to remind her of all the nights I stayed awake with her when she was sick, all the sacrifices I had made to give her a better life, all the love I had poured into her children, but I didn't. Instead, I looked at her and whispered, "Emily, one day you'll understand, but for now, I'll step back." She crossed her arms, her chin lifted high. "Good. That's what's best for all of us." Lucas cried harder, breaking free from her grip for just a moment to wrap his arms around my waist. "Grandma, please don't leave us." His little voice nearly broke me. I knelt down, kissed his forehead, and hugged Lily tight before Emily pulled them away again. I walked toward the door, my legs heavy as though each step carried the weight of my broken heart. Emily's last words followed me out. "Don't come back. We don't need you." The door slammed shut behind me, and I stood on the porch, the cool evening air biting against my skin. I wanted to collapse, to scream, to cry, but instead, I lifted my head, took a deep breath, and forced a small smile. Not for me, but for the neighbors who had surely overheard, for the children who had seen enough pain for one day, and for my own dignity. That night, I sat alone in my quiet house. The walls seemed emptier than ever, the silence deafening without the sound of Lucas and Lily's laughter. I held one of their drawings in my hand. Lily had given it to me just the week before, a picture of the two of us holding hands with the words, "I love you, Grandma," written in shaky letters. My tears finally fell, staining the days turned into weeks and then into months. Emily never called. She didn't let me visit. Birthdays passed without invitations. The absence of my grandchildren was like a hole in my chest that no amount of volunteering, reading, or community work could fill. I tried to stay busy. I helped at the library, cooked meals for neighbors, and volunteered at the clinic. But every night, I sat by the phone, hoping for a call that never came. I knew Emily was proud, but I also knew her pride would come at a cost. Raising 2 children alone while working long hours and managing a household was not easy. I had carried those burdens myself once, and I had done it with far less than she had now. Yet I also knew she didn't see that, not yet. And so I waited. I didn't beg. I didn't chase. I let her live the life she thought she could manage without me. But deep inside, I prayed for my grandchildren's well-being, and I trusted that sooner or later, the cracks in Emily's pride would show. What I didn't know then was just how much she would struggle, and how one night, months later, her desperation would lead her back to the very door she had slammed shut, in my face. In the days after Emily shut me out, I wrestled with a storm of emotions. Anger, sorrow, disappointment. They all swirled inside me. Yet beneath it all, there was something stronger. Resolve. I made a conscious decision not to beg for my place in my grandchildren's lives. I had been humiliated, yes, but I would not let bitterness define me. Emily had chosen pride, and if that pride was going to crumble, it would have to be under its own weight. I poured my energy into living with dignity. Each morning, I got up early, cooked myself a proper breakfast, and tended my small garden. I volunteered at the library, reading to children who didn't have grandparents of their own nearby. I spent afternoons at the clinic, helping organize supplies and offering a kind smile to patients waiting nervously. Every child's laughter reminded me of Lucas and Lily, and though it often brought tears to my eyes later at night, it also gave me strength. Friends who knew the situation tried to push me toward confrontation. "You can't let her keep them from you," one neighbor told me firmly. "Call her. Demand your rights as a grandmother." Others encouraged me to take legal action, but I shook my head each time. "Respect can't be forced," I replied quietly. "Emily has to come to that realization herself. If I chase her, she'll only run further." Deep down, I believed that love, steady, patient, and unwavering, would be stronger than her pride. I didn't slam my own door shut the way she had. I kept it open, in case one day she needed to walk back through it. The months crept by, and though Emily kept her distance, I heard small pieces of news through others. She was exhausted, barely keeping up with her job. The children often came to school late or without their homework finished. A teacher mentioned they sometimes looked tired and hungry. Each update broke my heart, but I forced myself not to intervene. It wasn't easy. Every instinct in me wanted to march to her house, scoop up those children, and make everything right. But I knew doing so would only deepen her resentment. Instead, I prayed. Each night I sat by Henry's photograph and whispered, "Give me strength. Help Emily see what she refuses to admit." And then, one stormy evening months later, it happened. I was sitting in my living room, knitting quietly as the rain tapped against the windows, when a knock echoed at the door. At first I thought it must be a neighbor, maybe someone caught in the downpour. But when I opened it, the sight before me nearly stopped my heart. There stood Emily, drenched from the rain, her hair sticking to her face. Her mascara had run down her cheeks, leaving dark trails of tears. She clutched Lucas and Lily tightly, one in each arm, their school bags hanging limply from their shoulders. The children looked pale, tired, and hungry. Emily's eyes met mine, and for the first time in years, I saw not pride, not anger, but pure desperation. Her voice cracked as she spoke. "Mom, I can't do this anymore." The words hung in the air like a confession, heavy and raw. She broke down in tears, her body shaking as she tried to explain. "I thought I could handle everything on my own. I thought I didn't need you, but I'm drowning. The bills are piling up. I can't keep up at work. And the kids, they're suffering. I don't know what else to do." Lucas and Lily slipped out of her arms and ran straight to me, their small hands clinging to my dress. "Grandma, we missed you," they cried, their voices trembling with relief. I knelt down. hugging them so tightly I never wanted to let go again. Emily sobbed harder, covering her face with her hands. I was wrong, Mom. I was so wrong. I let my pride hurt you and the children. Please, please forgive me. Please help us. In that moment, everything I had waited for unfolded before me. My decision not to chase, not to fight, had led Emily back to my door. She had finally seen the truth, that strength is not found in doing everything alone, but in knowing when to accept help. I guided them all inside, offering towels and warm blankets. As the rain beat against the windows, I made them hot soup, the same kind Emily loved when she was a little girl. For the first time in months, my home was alive again, with the sound of children's laughter and the smell of comfort food. And though part of me wanted to lecture her, to remind her of the pain her words had caused, I chose grace. I didn't scold. I didn't gloat. I simply said, "You're home now. That's all that matters." The moment Emily crossed the threshold of my home, I knew this was no ordinary visit. The rain-soaked clothes, the trembling hands, the broken look in her eyes. It was all proof that her pride had finally cracked wide open. She stood in my hallway, her voice caught between sobs and apologies, while Lucas and Lily clung to me as if they were afraid I might disappear again. I wrapped my arms around the children first, kissing their damp hair, and whispered, "You're safe now. Grandma's here." Their little shoulders relaxed, and I felt their weight settle against me like they had finally found the anchor they had been missing. Their presence filled the emptiness I had carried for months, healing wounds I thought would never close. Emily, meanwhile, collapsed onto the couch, covering her face with her hands. She looked nothing like the confident woman who had screamed at me months earlier. She looked like the little girl I once held during thunderstorms, the same girl who had clung to my skirt when she was scared of starting school. I saw in her the fragility she had tried so hard to hide behind walls of pride. Through her sobs, she finally spoke. "Mom, I thought I could do it all. I thought I didn't need anyone. I wanted to prove I was strong, but I've failed. The bills keep coming. I can't keep up with work. And the children, they're falling behind because I can't give them what they need." Her voice cracked as she looked up at me with swollen eyes. "I pushed you away, and it was the worst mistake of my life." I sat beside her, placing a warm cup of tea in her shaking hands. "Emily," I said softly, "being strong doesn't mean doing everything alone. It means knowing when to lean on the people who love you." She shook her head, ashamed. "But I hurt you. I said things I can never take back. I told you to forget your grandchildren. I can't forgive myself for that." Her words pierced me deeply, but I reached for her hand. "Do you know why I smiled that day, Emily? It wasn't because I didn't feel the pain. It was because I knew life has a way of teaching us lessons pride refuses to hear. I didn't chase you because I trusted that one day you'd realize love isn't a weakness. And here you are." Her tears spilled over, and she squeezed my hand tightly. "I need you, Mom. Lucas and Lily need you. Please, please don't give up on us." Lucas, overhearing, clutched my arm and said, "Grandma, don't leave us again. We want to stay with you." Lily nodded quickly, her eyes wide. "We missed your story. Mommy works too much, and we're alone." My heart ached as I listened to their tiny voices. No child should feel abandoned or burdened by the weight of adult struggles. I hugged them both, kissing their cheeks. "You'll never be without me again," I promised. Emily lowered her head, sobbing harder. "I don't deserve your forgiveness." I lifted her chin gently so our eyes met. "Forgiveness isn't about what you deserve. It's about what love compels me to give. You are my daughter. I raised you. I sacrificed for you. And even when your words cut me, I never stopped loving you. That love is why I can forgive you." Her body shook as she leaned against me, resting her head on my shoulder, like she hadn't done since she was a child. In that moment, I wasn't just her mother. I was her safe place again. The rest of the evening was spent not in lectures or anger, but in healing. I cooked a simple meal, hot soup, warm bread, and apple pie from the freezer. As the smell filled the kitchen, the children's faces brightened. They ate with delight, their laughter echoing through the house, bringing life back into rooms that had felt so empty. Emily watched quietly, tears still in her eyes, as she saw her children smile again. "This is what they've been missing," she whispered. "This is what I've been missing." I touched her hand gently. And it was here all along. You just had to open your eyes to it. For the first time in months, Emily smiled through her tears. It wasn't the smile of pride or defiance, but of relief and humility. She had finally set down the heavy burden she had been carrying. That night, as the rain continued to fall outside, my house became a haven again. The children slept peacefully in the guest room. Emily rested on the couch, and I sat by the window, watching the storm. Inside me, the storm of pain and resentment had also calmed. Love had won, not with shouting, not with anger, but with patience and grace. The morning after Emily came to my door, the house felt different. The air was lighter, the silence softer. For the first time in months, I woke to the sound of children's laughter in the kitchen. Lucas and Lily were sitting at the table, their hair messy, their cheeks bright with smiles as they ate pancakes. I stood in the doorway for a moment, just watching, my heart swelling with a joy I thought I had lost forever. Emily was there too, moving quietly, almost cautiously, as if she didn't quite know how to exist in this new space of humility. She glanced at me with tired but grateful eyes. No words were needed. Her expression spoke volume. In the days that followed, the weight of what had happened began to settle. The children blossomed almost instantly with the return of stability. Lucas, who had grown quiet during the months apart, laughed easily again. Lily carried her sketchbook everywhere, showing me her drawings with excitement. Their energy filled the house, bringing warmth into corners that had grown cold in their absence. Emily, on the other hand, carried guilt like a shadow. She often apologized, sometimes in small whispers when the children were asleep, sometimes with tears she tried to hide. "I don't know how you can even look at me after what I said," she confessed one night as we washed the dishes together. "I told you to forget them. I told you to stay away. What kind of daughter does that?" I dried a plate and set it on the counter, turning to her gently. A daughter who was lost in her own pride. A daughter who was overwhelmed and afraid to admit it. "Emily, we all make mistakes. What matters is not the mistake, but what we do afterward. You came back. You asked for help. That takes strength too." Her eyes filled with tears, but this time she didn't argue. She simply nodded and whispered, "Thank you, Mom." Slowly, our relationship began to rebuild. It wasn't overnight and it wasn't perfect. There were still moments when her pride surfaced, when her words carried more sharpness than she intended. But there was also progress. Moments of honesty, moments of vulnerability, moments where she allowed herself to be a daughter again, instead of someone constantly proving her independence. I saw change not just in her words, but in her actions. She began involving me in the children's routines again, asking for advice without resentment, and even apologizing when she caught herself falling back into old habits. Each step forward, no matter how small, felt like a victory. For me, the greatest gift was time with my grandchildren. I picked them up from school, cooked them their favorite meals, and tucked them into bed with stories. They often clung to me, whispering, "Don't leave again, Grandma." I would kiss their foreheads and assure them I never truly left. I was always here, waiting for them. Neighbors who had witnessed the earlier fight were surprised to see Emily visiting my home again. Some asked questions, others offered supportive smiles. I didn't share the detail. Family struggles are private. But I think they could see the transformation in the way Emily carried herself and in how closely the children held my hand. In quiet moments, I reflected on everything that had happened. I realized the greatest lesson wasn't about pride or even forgiveness. It was about patience. When Emily cast me aside, I could have fought back, shouted, or even tried to force my way into their lives. But I chose to wait, believing that life would eventually open her eyes. And it did. One evening, Emily sat with me after the children went to bed. She held her cup of tea, staring into the steam before speaking soft. "Mom, I used to think asking for help meant I was weak, but I see now that real weakness is pretending you don't need anyone. You've always been stronger than me, not because you do everything alone, but because you never let love make you small." Her words touched me deeply. I placed my hand over hers and said, "And you're learning that strength now. Don't be afraid of it." From that point on, I noticed her effort to live differently, not only with me, but with her children. She was more patient, more attentive, and less concerned with proving herself. She began to understand that relying on others doesn't take away independence, it enriches life. As for me, I carried forward with a heart lighter than before. I had been tested in ways I never expected by the very daughter I raised. But in the end, love had prevailed. The bond with my grandchildren grew stronger, and my relationship with Emily, though scarred, was slowly healing. Life has a way of humbling us. Pride may roar loudly in the moment, but it cannot sustain itself. In the end, it collapses, leaving behind the truth that we need one another, especially family. And sometimes, the greatest show of love is the patience to wait for someone to come back to their senses. That was my lesson. That was Emily's lesson. And that, I believe, is the lesson my grandchildren will carry with them long after I'm gone. If you believe family should never be pushed away and that grandparents are a blessing, subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments where you are watching from.